standing for a moment of silence to remember our troops abroad and their families here at home. Thank you. Our first order of business, if the council would like to join me, is to swear in our newest, finest Belmar police officer. Before we do that, I just have to make a motion to pass a resolution authorizing us to swear in Jonathan as a police officer. Need a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Is this going to hold that Bible? Hi, how are you? Let's put your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Jonathan Mahoney,
I, John Mahoney,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state,
and in the state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and I will faithfully,
and I faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all duties
all duties
as patrolman of the Borough of Belmar
as patrolman of the Borough of Belmar
Police Department
Police Department
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Jonathan comes to us from the Manasquan Police Department. He's a transfer. He was there for 6 years, did an outstanding job, and we're lucky to have him come to Belmar to join our outstanding force. Thank you. Next order of business is going to be our workshop discussion. A resolution I'd like to add to the calendar today is a resolution authorizing the clerk to go out to notice for bids for the two kitchen trailers, one at 10th Avenue and one at 13th. You have to notice 10 days before you have the bidding. And the bidding is when they come before the council and they offer how much they'll pay per month. The starting bid for both of them is going to be $8,750. That simply covers the cost to us for having the trailer there. So this resolution, I'm looking to add this on tonight so that we can advertise for it in time for the meeting on the 17th. Any questions at this time on this resolution?
Are these trailers the same size as the other three that we voted on
Yeah.
earlier?
Yeah. So remember, we awarded those three. These two we have not awarded yet. Or we awarded, we didn't give them notice to proceed. We're going to wait until we have the bids in before we do that. If by chance, we don't receive any bids, then we just go over the trip.
So the first three that we voted on in the past, they're already taken?
They've been given a notice to proceed for the current leaseholders.
Yeah, the current leaseholders.
And they agreed to do it, the current leaseholders?
Their lease is active, yeah.
So they're just gonna move in and pay?
Start working.
And pay with their existing leases.
Yeah.
And the $87.50 per trailer is the cost for us to put this on.
Per month.
Per month. And it'll be prorated,
Yeah.
you know, if it comes in the middle of May, obviously it's half of that for that month. And all these would be, just for the summer, the rest of the summer should be, so I'd like to add that on to the consent agenda. I guess we'll talk about that when we get to the consent agenda, Borough Attorney, as far as adding something onto it.
Yeah, I think that he made a motion to move the consent agenda, and then was acceptable to that. And then do the consent agenda, just make sure April says, hey, look, the new resolution is,
So I should make a motion now to do that?
yeah, move it to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to add this resolution on to tonight's consent.
Second.
Councilman Badkie?
Yes.
Councilman Belmar?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Nicholas?
Yes.
Mayor Barry?
Yes. That's all I have for workshop. Anyone else for workshop discussion or not? Seeing none from the council, we'll close the workshop. Any petitions for the mayor and council? No petitions. Next I'll ask for reports of council. Who would like to start off?
I'll go. I'm just real short. Yeah, I'd like to go first. I just want to congratulate one of our Belmar residents who came through the recreation basketball program. Last year, I spoke a lot about her sister, Michaela, but this year, Marina Mabry, only a sophomore, who has already scored over 1,000 points in high school varsity basketball, was named the Shore Conference Female Basketball Player of the Year. Quite an accomplishment. The female basketball player of the year last year was her sister Michaela. First time it's ever happened where two sisters back-to-back were selected players of the year. So congratulations to the Mabry family, especially Marina. That's my report.
That was quick.
It was quick.
Council President?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks to all of those who helped to make our first annual Women's Health Expo a huge success, including my sidekick, Christine Stoner. About 45 ladies attended to listen to presentations by Joanne Ballack, Karen Mason, Brenda Yarnold, Dr. Nicole and Dr. Nick of the Integrative Health Group, and Dr. Veer Gupta, chiropractor with the Optimum Health Chiropractic. All of the presentations were excellent. The theme of the program was keep thinking, keep moving, keep doing as we age. Our ADA meeting last Thursday evening proved to be most interesting. Among the topics of concern and planning were the purchase by the borough of molded swings with full leg, arm, and foot support for handicapped children. For example, children with cerebral palsy. We're thinking of having the swings placed at the park by Silver Lake, and I have put that request in to our borough administrator. Another topic for discussion was the possibility of having some sort of an appliance, lift, or deck to assist wheelchair-bound individuals and help people who have difficulty navigating boarding the train. Brendan Reed, a resident, not a committee member, was good enough to attend our meeting to offer support to the idea with suggestions. He is a member of the advocacy group of the New Jersey Association of Railroad Passengers. We will pursue our options that he presented to us, including contacting the New Jersey Transit. The Mayor's Wellness Campaign of Belmar will be launching a food drive beginning this Friday to benefit the Belmar Council of Churches food pantries. Baskets for collection will be placed in the 6th Avenue lobby of this building, the Belmar Library up in the upstairs area. We're looking for non-perishable foods, cans, not glass containers. We cannot take old stock or outdated items. I spoke to Pastor Grace of the Calvary Baptist Church, and there's a need for canned meats and canned dinners. The drive will begin this Friday and run through the end of May. Also, Mayor's Wellness Campaign is collaborating with the Belmar School Health Council in organizing a community walk for children and adults alike here in the Borough Gym on Wednesday, April 24th from 3 to 5. We're looking forward to having a huge turnout as we get ready for the summer. Councilman Bean put me in contact with a woman named Pat Connolly from Manasquan who was involved with an initiative called MOVE. The group requested representation from Belmar. The organization offers support services for people of the area still suffering from the effects of Hurricane Sandy. I plan to attend a meeting this Saturday at 1 at the Presbyterian Church in Manasquan to find out what services are available for our residents still in distress from the hurricane, and I'll share them with our Social Services Director, Kelly Williams. Thanks to Sergeant Tina Scott and our Belmar police staff, plans are in full swing for our 3rd annual Belmar Safety Day. The event will take place on Sunday, May 5th from 12 to 4 on 12th Avenue, next to the Belmar School and on the adjacent field. Information will be disseminated at that time by a variety of safety agencies and organizations. Hot dogs and hamburgers will be served up, and there will be fun activities for our children as well. Please remember the brunch for senior residents provided by our First Aid organization. The brunch will take place this Sunday, April 7th, beginning at 11 a.m. at the First Aid building. The group is back on its feet after the storm, continuing to do good works for our town. Also, the Belmar Women's Club is sponsoring a blood drive on April 17th from 3:30 until 7 at the First Aid building. The donations will benefit the Central Jersey Blood Center. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Bean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Did we receive any more FEMA money or anything since last week?
Nothing now.
Okay. I reached out and spoke to Mr. Mike Rubel at the South Monmouth Regional Sewers Authority. I believe last week a resident had come forward and asked about the pipes going across Ocean Ave. I just wanted a status update and to know what their plan is for the future. And what he explained to me was that the holdup is that they have to get the pipe running, or the pump running that's there now underground that was there, and it's broken. And before FEMA would pay for it, approve to pay to get it fixed, he said that a town would have to take responsibility for it, that the SMERS would not own it. So FEMA would not reimburse it if they put the money up. So as of last week, Spring Lake volunteered to claim ownership of this pipe, and they're going to vote on it, I think, at the next council meeting. And if it goes through, they will pay to get it fixed and turn in the project to FEMA. And if that happens, then we can start pumping out. We can remove the pumps that are there now on top with the pipes going across the road. He has really 3 plans. If that falls through, hopefully the county will let him dig underneath the roadway. If that doesn't work, he said by Memorial Day weekend, they are just going to cut a hole in the road, put the pipes through it, and lay metal plates over it. He said that he is doing everything he can to get this road open by Memorial Day weekend, and that is his plan. So I was very happy with his response, and I told him anything he needs, reach out, and we'll get it done. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Miller.
Just a few things. We had the Easter egg hunt Saturday, and it was a great turnout. I think everybody was thrilled to just be able to walk on the boardwalk and walk on the beach. We had lots of kids and an Easter bunny. Brian McGovern announcing all the activities.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I was used to it.
No, next year. 4-H Club is having a small animal show in the gym on Saturday, April 6th from 9 to 3. I just want to touch on a few things that DPW is doing. Reason being, just really to keep you updated on what's happening in the town, how we're getting ready for spring, but I always do the updates on them. We're still flushing hydrants and have done about 202 in the past 10 days. Pushing sand on the beach to get ready for the summer. We're making headway at the marina thanks to Charlie Vanderlyn. The sweeper's down, but as soon as it's up and running, they'll continue to start sweeping the streets. They picked up brush and leaves this week, and they're getting mulch and flowers ready for the spring. Did want to mention that the Circle of Friends for the disabled adults had their dance this weekend, and it was a tremendous turnout. It was a lot of fun. I'm still sore from dancing, but I don't even know how many people we had. It was just great, and they were thrilled to be there and get their dances going again. That's about it, and just want to stress, as I try to every few meetings, to buy in Belmar.
Thank you, Council. I want to first apologize for not being here last Wednesday. Evidently, in my absence, Claire's announced she's not going to run for re-election, so I will not miss any more council meetings. God forbid more council members decide not to run for re-election. But I want to thank Council President Dyke for taking over the meeting last week. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I made a promise to my two daughters months ago, and I had to keep it. So, a couple things on our beachfront. Our Buy a Board campaign is now over $570,000. And we are going to have the last day of April, April 30th, as the last opportunity to have your name up on the beachfront this summer. So that's going to be the cutoff date. So the end of this month is the cutoff date to have your name up on the beachfront. The generosity has been overwhelming, and we look to hope to have a good finish to that this month as well. Next thing I want to talk about is our engineering firm, Birdsall Engineering. They have been indicted, which is highly unusual, along with seven of their officers, stockholders, owners. I've been in contact with their existing CEO, their new CEO, a gentleman named Ralph Orlando. And at this point in the game, regarding our boardwalk, we're going to make a business decision to stay with Birdsall as long as the Birdsall employees that designed and are currently managing the boardwalk remain employed by Birdsall. When they had their assets seized, they were under a threat of not being able to make payroll, which means we wouldn't have those employees in town. They were able to unfreeze those assets through the courts, so they were able to make payroll. So ever since the indictments and ever since the asset seizure, we have still had Birdsall employees, again, the ones who designed and manage it, here in Belmar to finish this project. There is quite literally nothing more important at this point than making sure we have the boardwalk finished on time for Memorial Day weekend. So our business decision as a borough is to maintain what we have so that can get done on time. I am going to have a resolution to the council for our next council meeting, the 17th, a resolution to go out for an RFP for another engineering firm for future projects and moving forward. Birdsall is free to submit for that RFP as well. But I can tell you in the last 5 days, I've gotten many phone calls from engineering firms all over the state that are interested in being our town engineer. So again, we're going to stick with them through the end of the boardwalk project, and after that, we'll reevaluate the situation and have a plan to move forward with or without them. That is all for me. So thank you for everyone's report. Next, going to ask for approval of minutes.
Yes. I move that the minutes of the regular meeting held on March 27, 2013 be approved as recorded, and that a copy thereof be posted on the borough's website.
Second?
Councilman Decky?
Yes.
Councilman Governor?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Barry?
Abstain. Next is public session on our resolution calendar. The one resolution that we've already addressed is the approving appointment of Jonathan Mahoney as patrolman for the Belmar Police Department. So we're going to open up to public session. Any comments, questions on the resolution calendar only? If our attorney would be so helpful as to move the microphone back to the middle of the aisle, please. Yep. So any comments or questions on the resolution calendar?
Mike Seebeck, 110 2nd Avenue. Mayor Doherty, Council, good evening. Mayor Doherty, I'm coming up here to ask some questions about the resolution on the agenda this evening regarding the increase in the contract that was awarded at a prior meeting for concrete. Can you briefly describe the scope of work involved in that?
Colin, would you address this along with?
Sure. This particular contract is to provide vehicle access ramps at several points along the boardwalk, for concrete slabs for the bathrooms, and as well as, maybe most importantly, provide water and sewer service to the boardwalk. That conduit and those services would be run and concrete poured over top.
Okay. Who negotiates with Birdsall on these contracts and would be responsible for reviewing this mathematical error that's resulted in the $104,000 increase?
Who reviews?
Amongst the council. You guys, the council represents the supervisory and executive role of the town. Who goes over this and reviews?
Well, we all do, that's when we vote.
Well, have you reviewed this change?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what the math error was regarding?
Colleen explained it to me. It was,
In unit price, mistake that they made in, I believe it was digging test pits.
so what we're going to try to do, talking with our engineers, is to eliminate as much as possible the need for those test pits. So while we have to increase the award size, it's important to note that the Precise company was the lowest bidder. And even by increasing it to $104,000, I think it is, they're still the lowest bidder. And their bid is below what Birdsall's original estimate was. So we had a couple different options here. We could have went out to rebid. If we did that, then we'd have to go through the rebidding process, introduce it, wait 10 days, bring bids in, review them, and more than likely, we would have got the same prices anyway.
Well,
So they probably weren't the lowest bidder anyway, because they already were, even with the change. So
I just
we
find it.
consulted- Let me finish. We consulted with our borough attorney, if you want to chime in here as well, as legally what was the.
Essentially,
best option
what
to
you're
buy.
gonna do is you're gonna, if you continued with the path that you were on, the vendor wouldn't, do the job because of the mathematical error. So you would end up going out to rebid because he wouldn't do the bid, or he wouldn't do the job that, he was, awarded to do because of the mathematical error. The engineer and the vendor spoke. The award was well within your estimate. I think if my math was correct, on the top of my memory, it's almost like still, it's like $80,000 below the second lowest bidder. And so they corrected it based on the error within the vendor's bid.
So, Counselor, my question is, did he actually bid the $3,600 for the test pits? Because, I mean, it comes back now as $3,600 per cubic yard, which I think makes the bid both unbalanced and unreasonable. And the engineer signed off in a letter of recommendation advising you to award the contract at the original price based on the fact it was reasonable.
Right.
Now, the test pits are something in a lot of contracts that I've seen that are at the discretion of the engineer. In fact, they're typically not drawn on the contract. So we're putting 25% of the value in this contract at the discretion of the engineer, who's come in here and publicly told us that change orders to be expected, et cetera, et cetera. So first off, I think the number of $3,600 a cubic yard for digging test pits in Belmar beach sand is unreasonable. And secondly, I would advise the council to award the contract and perhaps put the test pit work in the hands of Mike Campbell and our own DPW, which would save the town probably the substantial majority of the $104,000 difference.
As I mentioned before, I spoke with our engineer, and we are looking to have a change order in that they would not have decrease. Change orders can be increases or decreases. So we would look at a change order that would be a decrease in the
You
future.
could still come within, under the budget.
Right.
You understand that?
Council Dupont, I do understand that, but the fact of the matter is, when you bid an item, it looks like this may have been bid at $120 a cubic yard, which is totally reasonable. In fact, the other responsible bidders are at 1 penny, which looks like Wozniak was going to do it as a function of being on the job and doing other work. And the other bidder, which was the high bid, was $250 a cubic yard. When you go from 250, can I finish, please? When you go from 200.
Other areas where they're making the revenue, that's, I mean, you can't.
But this is a discretionary item, that's what concerns me. This is not in the hands of our mayor and council, it's in the hands of Birdsall, who's come in here publicly and made statements to the effect that change orders and the likes are to be expected, et cetera, et cetera. I'd rather have decisions like that and monetary amounts of $100,000 in the hands of my council.
Well, it is in their hands right now.
Excuse me?
It's in their hands tonight when they vote on it. But there's never been a, to my knowledge, there's never been a project in Belmar that didn't have a change order.
Well, not a bad time to start. And keep it below bid with no change orders. Because Mayor Doherty, I've spoken to a lot of people, and $3,600 a cubic yard for test pits is unreasonable.
Thank you for your opinion on that.
Well, do you agree or do you disagree?
I disagree.
You disagree. So you think $3,600 per cubic yard digging in the sand is a reasonable price for the taxpayers of Belmar to pay a contractor to dig test pits?
I believe that the overall price is sufficient for what needs.
That was not my question. My question is $3,600 per cubic yard is the bid item unit price that the engineer has the discretion to say where and.
And I think I already explained that the engineer is, and I have already spoken about this, and they're looking not to have those test pits done as frequently as being bid.
Well, that's lovely, but I think we can take it one step further and put it back in the hands of the council by saying the council will advise our DPW to dig test pits.
Thank you for your opinion.
Do you think $3,600 per cubic yard is a reasonable price?
I think the bid itself is a reasonable price. It's below the original estimate.
That's the only qualifier, that it's below the original estimate? I mean, the contractor bid, did anyone, here's one last question, if I may. Did anyone reach out to Birdsall and ask if they advised the client, the contractor, due to the nature of the mistake, what their intent was in an advisory letter?
Who's in fact?
The contractor. The contractor bid the item at 30 cubic yards, $3,600 a cubic yard for $108,000, and put a bid total of $3,600, which equates to $120 a cubic yard, which would be the norm. Or, let's put it this way, a much more normal figure. Somewhere between a penny and $2.50.
Okay, so you want to know if Birdsall communicated with Precise?
Yeah, and advised, they're supposed to be acting as our advocate.
Correct.
So we have a difference in an item of $104,000, 29% of the entire contract value.
No, not the entire contract.
Well, the contract award you authorized at the last meeting,
Of the entire contract value, but not double.
no, I didn't say double. I said it was about 29% of the contract value that you awarded
That's true.
on March 27th. Okay, so the question is, did someone speak to Paul Calabrese, the engineer Birdsall, and asked if he went out to Precise in writing and asked about what their intent was in bidding this item?
What their intent was.
Correct. They bid the item at 30 yards, $3,600 a cubic yard, which is a $108,000 line item total, and they put the bid total of $3,600, which works out to $120 a yard, which I would have no question with. I would say dig away.
I'm sure, but I have no idea if they went to writing or not. I don't know if they wrote a letter.
Wouldn't that be something that we should ask before we vote on authorizing the change?
If I thought it was that important, I certainly.
But isn't that the services our engineering company is supposed to provide for us? They're supposed to advocate and go
Well, they
to...
do. They don't necessarily write letters about it, but they do.
So basically what you're saying is that you felt right now, if you spoke to Paul Calabrese and said $3,600 a cubic yard for test pits, he'd say that's the norm. Because I don't think it's the norm, and I've actually asked a few people, and they said it's quite a bit higher than the norm. And furthermore, it's not in the hands of our council as to its discretionary application, it's in the hands of the engineer. So this could come in at, oh, I don't know, 50 yards?
Well, technically speaking, anytime we award a contract to a contractor, and Birdsall's the manager, it's at their discretion.
I don't know if I agree with that, Mayor Doherty. I would think they'd have to come back and...
They sign off on whether the work's completed
Well,
satisfactorily.
then doesn't that represent a problem? If the bid item is out of line by degrees of magnitude,
Well, if
and we're allowing them to sign off on it
if I
as,
agree
at
with you,
discretion,
If I agree with you, then I wouldn't have wanted this offer tonight, so I disagree.
okay. Well, I thank you very much all for your time. Can I address the rest of the council?
Something
Supposed to,
regarding
no, same question. I mean, I want to see how everybody else feels. Whether it'd be good to reach out to Birdsall in light of what's going on, the
what's going on.
macro environment with Birdsall's legal issues, the,
Well, their legal issues have nothing to do with our project here or to do with the employees that are working in Belmar.
well, you just said that you were considering not retaining them in the future and going out and,
Not retaining the company, but for this project, we're going to be retaining employees who designed it and managed it, and we hold accountable.
and one other thing, according to what I've read, Mayor Doherty, the Birdsall release that they secured through a court order is for payroll for 2 weeks, and the Attorney General is appealing that decision. So their legal issues are substantial.
Oh, believe me, I completely understand that.
And it may be that the distraction that caused this to slip through, but I don't think it's acceptable to the taxpayers for us to just give our engineer, carte blanche to dig test pits all over town and charge whatever he needs to charge.
Well, we're not doing that. but-
Well, you can't say that.
Thank you for your comment.
It's a discretionary item.
Right, it's not all over hand.
Is that my 5 minutes?
I think it's more.
I thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any questions, comments on the resolution calendar? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion for the resolution calendar, or make a motion to close the public portion.
Second?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to pull a couple out.
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to pull out the second, the third, and the fourth.
Hold them up to consent agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Councilmember Dyke? We're voting to pull the resolutions off the consent agenda?
Yes.
Which one, specifically, which ones are they?
Second,
2, 3, and 4.
2, 3, and 4. And what,
And by the way, I'm sorry, the one I added on would be added at number 5, regarding going out to notice for the bidding for the kitchen trailer.
what about that resolution that Mr. Seebeck was just talking about, that resolution amending the award of the contract?
That's number,
That's number
Oh,
6.
5, yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah, 6, my bad, 6.
So Jim, did you want it, number 5, is that?
Yes.
Okay.
One, what did I say, number 2.
3 and 4.
Number 2, I'm sorry, number 2, 4, and 5, I'm so sorry.
It's the boardwalk study needed redevelopment, the
Yes.
payment of bills, and the amendment of award.
You got it.
2, 4, 5.
Got all that, April?
Who's on first?
Do we have a motion and a second?
I have a motion.
Second.
Councilman Dyke?
Yes.
Councilman Delmer?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Barry?
Yes. Next, we'll take the resolutions individually. A resolution by the mayor and council to designate the boardwalk study area as an area in need of redevelopment.
Second.
Offer?
Second.
Councilman Dyke?
Yes.
Councilman Delmer?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
We're voting on this ordinance, correct? I always get this wrong. Okay, Mayor, I just would like an explanation of why we need to do this.
It allows us to enter into a public partnership, public-private partnership if we'd like to, on rebuilding up at the boardwalk, particularly the 13th Avenue Pavilion. It doesn't mean we have to, but it allows us that ability, and also to negotiate, who the tenants would be, and do it in the best interest of the town. This is sort of like what we did at the at the marina with the 9th Avenue Pier. Follows the same idea.
But I don't think, did we make 9th Avenue Pier in the need of redevelopment? Did we have to pass that to do that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I really didn't think that we had to make the whole boardwalk in need of redevelopment just to bring in an outside person to help us, rebuild.
Well, it's the only way you can enter, again, into a public-private partnership.
Okay. What motivation would somebody have to help us rebuild the 9th Avenue Pier? I'm sorry, to rebuild the boardwalk, to rebuild the buildings. I mean, why would a developer come in? I just want to get your train of thought here.
Well, just like the marina. They would put their private capital at risk. It would be their own money. They would pay us a land lease, and they would look to obviously operate some type of concession there that would be approved by the mayor council.
And there was a liquor license that was given to 9th Avenue Pier. Are you thinking liquor license for the boardwalk?
Possibly.
Okay. I don't feel that this is the right, if we do a joint venture, I would like to know more details before we just give the authority to pass the entire boardwalk as in need of redevelopment. I am voting no.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Darrell?
Yes. Next, resolution awarding contract for concrete paving and striping improvements to Ocean Avenue. I'll offer and move for its adoption.
No, we didn't pull that.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Resolution authorizing payment of bills list. I'll offer and move for its adoption.
Second.
Councilman Dyke?
Yes.
Councilman Belmar?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Couple of questions real quick. Enterprise rent-a-car, what would we rent a car for a month for?
We rented many cars in the wake of Hurricane Sandy as we were getting our fleet back up and running.
So they're for police cars, they're for
The
DPW?
one on there, I believe, was for police.
We rent a car for the police?
Yeah,
Drive around for them?
absolutely.
The Stabola companies are in here, so I'm aware of that. Your target marketing, this is a website, people. We're paying them more money. We are unhappy. I'm unhappy with their website. Is there anything we could do to, we're paying them another $4,000.
They did a massive amount of work during the storm.
This is all for storm?
A lot of it was.
Because it says reserved from tourist fund, not for hurricane relief.
I have to look at it. There was a lot of updates now.
Well, they get paid out of tourism dollars, correct? Yeah.
All right, is there anything we can do about them? I spoke my piece last meeting. And also, we have a whole bunch of clients. Client number 9. Let's see, client number 79. I have no idea who these people are. We're cutting them checks out of the Belmar. And you guys, they want me to okay this, to say this is all on the up and up, and I have no idea who we're cutting these checks to or why we're cutting these checks. It says hurricane relief, is it? I don't know. It says client number 9, University of Phoenix. Is this,
These are great.
who's the, Elliot Spitzer, and he, client number 9? Is this who we're cutting to? I'm not sure. It says client number 9.
These are displaced residents who are desperate need of aid.
Okay, well, I don't know who they are, and I'm not signing my name unless they do, so I'm voting no.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor Darrell?
Yes, and just to reiterate the point, Councilman Dean can find out who they are at any time he likes. He just has to speak with Kelly Westerfield, but we're not going to release people's names publicly. There's no need to embarrass people who need assistance, and that's our policy, we are sticking to it. Next is resolution amending the award for contract for utility services and concrete for the boardwalk. I'll offer and move for its adoption.
Second?
Councilman Dyke?
Yes.
Councilman Belmar?
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with that change.
The irony of the name of the company, Precise, doesn't escape me. To make $100,000 mistake
is huge. It's huge. I know this is the second time that Birdsall told us this was still lower than the second price, the second time. Maybe maybe they do quality work, but I question the quality of their work if they make a $100,000 mistake in something that they're bidding out. I know sometimes when you go to the lowest bidder, which probably is not always the smartest way to go, you don't get the best of work. I did speak with Paul Calabrese today, personally, to ask him about this mistake. And he certainly is not, he's not pleased. And it's the company's mistake, it's their mistake. But he's still confident that they will do a good job, but wow, $100,000 mistake. You know what, I'm not gonna vote for it.
Councilman Dean?
Mayor, this is definitely Precise's mistake, not Birdsall's.
Yes.
Absolutely. I have the Birdsall recommendation of award utility that was handed out before the last meeting. And the base bid for Precise Construction is $363,975, and there's a star after it. And the star says corrected for mathematical error. Is this a different error that they corrected for, or is this the same error that we knew about that we just didn't vote on?
No, I know I have it. That is the error in question. And when we moved to award, last week, I suppose it was, that there had been a conversation to confirm that the adjusted bid total of the $363,975 was accurate. And a week later, Precise called us and said, no.
Repeat that one more time. We had, what did we have that said?
We awarded at $363,975.
Right.
And a week later, Precise called us back and said that the mathematical error is actually in the other direction. That it was $468 to $375, which is what we're against.
Okay. I don't like that. It says right here on the sheets that there's an error. I don't know why we couldn't wait a week if we thought, we knew there was an error. I voted no.
Councilman Nicolais?
If it is not approved, what is the impact with the test mix?
The most likely impact, although there are many variables, is that the work will be delayed past Memorial Day.
I vote yes.
Chair Doherty?
And just before I vote, just to reiterate it before, and just give you some background on Precise. While they were inaccurate in this, and it's embarrassing for them, they do good work. They're the ones who performed the work to make improvements to 10th Avenue as you came into Belmar from the train tracks to Main Street. They're also working on the parking lot back here. That's going to include an increase of at least 100 additional parking spaces. Councilman McGovern, it is right that it's frustrating that you have to go with the lowest bidder in government work. Doesn't always mean you get the best one. In these guys' case, I will vouch, and I think you can see throughout town, that they do perform well. They do good work. This is embarrassing for them, as it should be. If we went out to bid, they would probably be the lowest bidder again at the same price we're awarding tonight. So instead of getting caught up in bureaucratic mumbo jumbo, to me it makes much more sense to award it to them, get this thing built and get it done. So I vote yes.
I also contend that the explanation given by our council and our business administrator holds up with me, so that's what I support.
Next is our consent agenda. There's not much left on it, but I'll make a motion and offer to move the consent agenda.
Second.
Councilman Decky?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Nicolais?
Yes.
Chair Doherty?
Yes, that's it for our resolution calendar, and there are no ordinances. So we'll move to public session. Public session is you raise your hand, wait to be called on. Don't get up before you're called on. If someone is speaking, don't interrupt them. And there's a time limit of 5 minutes to say what is ever on your mind. Come up, say your name and address for the record.
Victoria Renner, 1106 D Street, Belmar, New Jersey. Last week, I was away, and it was brought to my attention
Can you adjust
that,
that mic?
pardon?
Can you adjust the mic? Can't hear you.
I'm not that tall. I don't want to use up my 5 minutes. It brought to my attention that Connie had gotten up and asked for help regarding a tree located in Belmar, saying it was hazardous and dangerous and someone could get killed by it and all kinds of stuff. I watched the tape while I was away. I came here to clarify what this tree is all about. It's a huge tree. It's located on one of the properties that Billy and I, his last name is Renner, because she didn't know his last name. His name is Bill Renner. My last name is Renner. And we purchased a property on Main Street. It's 2 doors away, or 3 doors away from Michio's. And it was in very bad shape when we purchased it. My husband has spent over a year refurbishing it and trying to bring it back to its glory and make Main Street better. He has worked every day on it just about for over a year. And to say that we would intentionally go into the backyard and cut roots out of a huge tree so that it might kill someone is disturbing. We would never put this amount of money into any property that we own to intentionally do something destructive. We had about 10 paver pallets delivered, and our intention back there is to keep the tree and to make it beautiful by paving it and landscaping it for whoever the future tenants will be. And in the process, oh, by the way, I just wanted to mention, I was on Shade Tree, the committee, for about 18 years, and I was part of planting all the trees around the lake, 100 and some trees. We were awarded Tree City in Belmar while I was on it. So it's not something that's taken lightly. I'm not a tree hugger, I don't know what that is, but this is a beautiful tree. And the reason I feel she might be upset about it is I never knew until we purchased the building that every year, once a year, I guess when you drive down Main Street, it starts to snow in Belmar in the spring. A lot of it. It looks like snow. I never knew where it came from. I always thought it was on the Main Street trees. Apparently it's this tree, which I think is a cottonwood or something. It's an odd tree for the state of New Jersey. It's enormous. And what Billy did was he cleared the land around it, and we built up the soil around the base of the tree so that it'll be safe. So when we pave it, it'll be beautiful and safe and whatever back there. So I just wanted to clarify that. We have no intentions of killing someone with a tree. And in the process of doing and cleaning out that backyard, unfortunately for Connie, we found out that her fence is actually 2 feet on our property. So Dr. Ihorn in the rear is gracious. We have replaced the rickety old horrible fence that was there. We put a new fence up. Belmar Jewelers to the right has also been gracious. We put a brand new fence to the right, and the last side left is Connie. So she mentioned, I believe it could hurt not only people, but kill the car that's back there. But the car doesn't even have license plates on. I believe there's a boat back there. There's all things. So if you don't have plates, maybe the car shouldn't be there if it's not registered. And hopefully I'm here to get advice now, since this has all been brought up to light. When someone's fence is on our property, I would suggest to her to get her own survey if she disagrees with the survey that we have when we purchased the property. And so that her fence can be taken down and we can put the brand new fence up to make the entire area beautiful rather than have one side that's horrific.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I respond?
Sure.
Last week when Connie explained what was happening, I did promise that I would look at it. And I did go over there with a gentleman named Bill Brash. He's of the New Jersey Forestry Commission. He's a tree expert. It is a cottonwood. He was shocked how big it is, because you're right, it's not supposed, it's probably the biggest tree in Belmar.
And New Jersey has its own.
He looked at it, and what you're doing is not damaging the tree. Actually, what you're doing is you're improving it. Because somebody at some point piled dirt up against the trunk of the tree. So it almost looks like a broomstick sticking in dirt, which is not what you're supposed to do. So actually what he did, because when he leveled around the tree, there's no roots. That means the roots are underground. So the stability of the tree has not been jeopardized whatsoever.
Correct.
It is a heritage tree. I would, love that tree, even if you wanted to take it down, we'd probably have to fight you for it, because it's an unbelievable tree.
Yes.
The piling of the dirt around it, if you got a tree expert, and I'm not a tree expert, you might want to even take more dirt away from the
I'm
trunk
sure
of the
he
tree.
will.
So
It's just that we're still in a huge process of all the work we're doing. And I have not been a part of it back there, but once we get to that point, I intend to be part of the landscaping of
because
it.
where a tree goes into the ground, if you notice, it kind of flares out right at the soil level. Your tree right there, it looks like a broomstick in the dirt. So
Correct.
that is putting the tree under stress. Whoever did it, when they did it,
Right.
that was a mistake. But it's,
It could have been Billy.
the stability of that tree, or the work you're doing, is not jeopardizing it, according to Mr. Brash, a tree expert.
Right. And just to say, to be careful with the tree situation, there was I don't know how many hundreds of year old tree at the Belmar Elementary School when I was on the shade tree. And they were determined to get that tree down. And when I went away on vacation years ago, I came home, it was gone. And I said no every time. And it was shade for the children, but they were afraid people would trip on the roots. But there's a way of fixing that.
He is a hazardous tree expert also, and he does not see that as a
Okay,
hazardous tree.
Thank you, Mrs.
good, thank you.
The case of the cottonwood tree.
In Belmar,
Yes.
New Jersey.
Con.
Kind of bonus. I listened to Vicky. What she says is not truth. I saw with my own eyes that there was cat all around. And the husband he has a machine there, and anybody can go and see with their own eyes. I just want to know, when that tree, it comes, I'm going to call you and see the mess that tree makes. And the air conditions, and the fence, and the storm doors, and everything else, with all that cotton catching, and they can breathe, and breaking the waters from the air conditions and the fence. Plus, if that tree falls and hurt anybody, my tenants, helpers, my tenants, me, anybody, it should be somebody responsible. Because I heard you say, your expert says it's safety tree. I want that to be, give it to me the name and have it in my file. That's all. I'm not gonna go waste my money
We can give you his name.
in attorneys.
Well, he doesn't represent Belmar. He wants to do the grant to give us a community-wide management plan.
Well, maybe you could put Connie in touch with the manager.
Or I could bring him over to the house.
Bring
You
him
know,
over.
I did go to your yard, and we did look at it personally. And we didn't see any roots cut. There were some
You don't see-
shrubberies planted around it that have grown, and it's probably those roots.
If you don't see, you was not there what I was doing to see. I don't know what happens.
I can clarify.
Therefore, now about my fence, the person see the survey, went with the survey, if it's, because your husband asked me to
Connie,
take
just
my
address the
fence
council,
down.
please. Connie, you guys gotta address the council.
Okay, her husband asked me, Bill, about a month and more or a month ago. He wants to put a new fence, solid white fence. I said, please, Bill, don't touch mine. Put whatever you want to do with yours. Put an axle, whatever. Don't touch. I don't want, I want mine, it's his, it's his. This is the way the business goes with me. So, he saying that now because he wants to move it. If he has the right to do it, he can do it. I don't want to put it, but if I put an attorney to find my rights, because I have to make sure you people pay the bills, not me.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you. That's how we're going.
Any other comments, questions, non-tree related? Non-tree related, any non-tree related comments, questions?
Would that help?
That would help. All right, is it tree related or not tree related? Not to do with trees.
All right, I can handle that. Paul Carew, 110 4th Avenue. Pleasure to be here. And you normally get emails from me. I'm very impressed, by the way, by the response time. Usually it's within an hour from each one of you. It's very impressive. I'm better on writing than I am speaking, so apologize if I break down. I'm very impressed with the recovery efforts. I live half a block to the ocean, so I'm right down in the I guess the battleground, you might say, and it's been tough this winter not being able to get to my beach. My dog doesn't like that either, but I see there's a break in the clouds and we're going to get there now. I'm happy with that. As I drive along the other beach towns, I notice they're so far behind. There's nothing going on there. I don't think there's going to be a beach season for them. Congratulations, we're going to have one. I can tell you that with confidence, seeing how hard these guys are working. I got a couple questions. I got a question. This is a beautiful boardwalk that you put in, this tropical spice or whatever it is. There's a lot of unusual pieces that come off of there that are partially cut. Where do they go? Because that's expensive stuff, and I'm wondering whether that could be recycled within the town. And I haven't been here before, so I don't know.
Sure, no, we have an arrangement with Epic where the scraps that come off, scraps for less than better word, are still good. And so our DPW is stockpiling them.
Good.
They will go towards various projects such as constructing a skirt for the boardwalk, the board installation, things like that.
Mhm.
So we are taking every piece of things that we're not using.
It's high quality stuff, and you want that to go to the dump. I suggest that also, if you're done using it for municipal purposes, that maybe townspeople
Yeah.
might be able to use it for their porches or steps or anything like that for safety purposes, rather than buying it. We lost a lot of stuff, so not all of it is covered. Hardly, I don't know how many people have flood insurance, but not as many as should have, I know that. But that's also been a wonderful thing, the people just killing us with the offering of help. I say killing, but I can't believe the number of times, the number of people that have offered to help when we didn't actually need it. We weren't hurt that bad, but it didn't matter. They offered anyway. So you guys are all behind that, and I congratulate you for that. One more question. It has to do with Silver Lake, which is, the beautiful Silver Lake is now a puddle of mud or something like that. I hope we're going to redevelop that and make it look garden-like and do some real smart planning.
The
And
plans
stock-
are
and stock it with some
possibly
fish.
next week. The cinder path is coming back. On the water side of the cinder path will be planted meadow flowers, wildflowers. On the street side of the cinder path will be grass. They have plans for 70 trees to be replanted. Hopefully some of the ones that were there, they might make it through. We'll have to wait another week or two to see if they leaf out. 3 or 4 inches of topsoil will be worked into the soil because that soil is not very, so I'm assured it's going to be, as nice as ever, maybe better. The tough part
It's a
will
chance
be
to make it better, right?
the top of the lake. There's no way we could plant grass now to take the foot traffic of the seafood festival and the 5-mile run and the triathlon.
Right.
So they are still thinking about what they can do for there. And then the best time to plant grass seed is September, so they'll wait till then to do that section for planting grass.
I would also like you to look into what kind of fish and wildlife we could put in the lake to make it a balanced ecosystem.
I saw a turtle the other day. The turtle was there.
I mean, other than random stuff, we have a chance to do it. A lot of people used to crab there. I don't know how the crabs got in there, but they're probably gone. They're all St. Rose, basically. cafeteria probably. An amazing story, I don't know why that wasn't followed up. Have I used my 5 minutes up? I think that's.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, it's really.
Mike, you have an answer?
Thank you, Paul. We were contacted by New Jersey Fish and Game. They are looking into, they took water samples, they are looking into what fish will survive in the brackish water that we have, and they are looking to see what they can give to us at no cost to us and put fish back in our lake. So they're already on it. They contacted us 2 weeks ago.
It's a good investment, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, David, there we go.
David Schneck, 302 C Street. How was Taylor Swift? Good?
It was excellent.
Yeah, I bet that was
It was
fun.
nice of my daughters to go with me and cover the fact that I'm a big Taylor Swift fan. So
Oh, good, yeah, that was nice. Prince Harry coming to Belmar?
we're working on it.
Oh, yeah? You talking to Chris Christie about bringing him here?
Well, they're 302 Main, C Street, yeah.
Oh, good, good, yeah. Let me know a couple of days ahead of time. I'll have drinks ready. About the website, I did go to it today, and I see there has been some work done to it. The archives going back to the beginning of 2012 for the the council meetings and minutes, and for the campaign filings I see are up there now. It's just something they're working on, and my question is, they're not done yet, right? They're gonna continue to migrate. 2011, 2010, and all that stuff is now being moved over to the website and will be connected. Excellent. About Birdsall, just real quick. You were saying that we might look at another, engineer after this, but the Birdsall, that's not a competitive bidding thing where if Birdsall wouldn't bid, right? Because if they bid the lowest, we wouldn't have to use them, right?
Correct, we wouldn't have.
So is there like a bidding on that, or is that something that's left up to our discretion?
Request for proposal. It's not a request for bid, a request for proposal.
Right, so they couldn't just lowball the price and we'd be stuck with them or anything like that, right? Good, okay. Just one thing real quick about the names Jim brought up there about, because he didn't want to vote for the payment of bills because he doesn't know who the checks are going to. I did see that John Paff of the Open Government Advocacy Project, he's the chairman of that, and he's one of the leading experts on Open Public Records Act, said that a name is either protected or it's not, and that it can't be protected from some people but not from other people. So, this thing with just saying, well, Jim can look at him for 5 minutes, but he can't write it down or can't photocopy it or something like that, according to the project, that's not valid.
Well, I don't think that's true. I mean, he's a member of the governing body, whereas a member of the press could not, or you could not. But our attorney could probably better address that.
Well, we had a conference on that we attempted to mediate the issue, and the mediator came to the conclusion that it was a novel issue. He didn't know how the Government Records Act Council was going to rule. We did propose to allow Mr. Bean to go in and view the list. Mr. Bean, Councilman Bean said that he felt they didn't have the mental capacity to look at the list by himself. And I use the example for, those people who are on welfare, right? Do you ever use or receive, whether it's welfare or benefits, there's not a list of those individuals who receive benefits, in the public. And so the mediator said, it's an interesting point. It's been created by Hurricane Sandy. He didn't have any cases on point. He did understand the privacy argument that we were making. It's a constitutional argument also. And he wrote a letter, and I think Councilman Bean probably would agree that, it's up to the Government Council as to what they would like to do. I don't think it was a contentious discussion. It was kind of just, it was a discussion like, here's the facts, here's what happened, here's what Hurricane Sandy did to us. And Councilman Bean, to his credit, he stuck to his guns and says, no, I don't want to look at it by myself for the following reasons. And we asked that the Government Council make its decision.
Okay, well, you can understand why he wouldn't want to vote for payment to someone. It could be his cousin or something, and he wouldn't even know it, right?
Well, he
So-
could know it, though, he could look at it.
Actually,
Well-
that's my point. I mean, there's hundreds of people in there. For
Yeah.
5 minutes while I was
Yeah,
going through it.
you can't,
Well,
unless you have a
obviously-
photographic memory or something, which I certainly don't.
Obviously, it wouldn't be 5 minutes, but any member of the council could do that. Jim seems to be the only one who has a problem.
Okay, well, I just would like to make the point real fast before I only have one other question after this.
10 seconds, are up.
I'm the only one that you tried to stop with, and I think other people were talking more than 5 minutes. But this was brought about because we decided not to follow the state's advice and distribute the charity money ourselves instead of doing what the state had recommended that we do and that direct people to a charity that's in the business of doing this kind of thing, who's a private organization, not subject to the Open Public Records Act or anything like that. So I just want to make that point, that we didn't have to be this way. We could have just let St. Vincent de Paul or the Belmar Women's Club or somebody else, do this work instead of yourselves. Last question.
All right, come on.
I'll be quick.
Last question, all right.
With Precise, we didn't sign the contract yet, and that's why it's not breach of contract, right? So if we had already signed the contract, they'd have to stick to it and just whatever. But because we didn't have a chance to actually approve the contract before they found their mistake and corrected it, there's nothing we can do about it except put it out to bid again. Is that correct?
It's one way to think of it that way.
Because we didn't vote on it yet, but if we had voted on it, if they discovered the mistake next week instead of this week, then it would have been.
There's a little different variation on that. The vendor basically brought, the attention of this calculation and said that he wasn't going to perform. So there's, your argument is somewhat accurate, but not entirely accurate.
But, Mr. DuPont, if they had found the mistake after the vote, then they'd be.
Now you're just abusing it, come on.
No, just real quick. If they had found the mistake next week, they would have had to stick to the contract, right?
Well, again, there's a lot of variations to it, whether they would have stuck to the contract or not. I don't think they would, based on my conversations with engineer Cooper.
All right.
It's possible that they just didn't know a seawall was going to be built, or was not going to be built.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. And just for the record, I don't think the Belmar Women's Club could have distributed $300,000 in aid to residents that live in town. Yes, Mike.
Bill hasn't asked yet. Why don't you take him first?
Sure.
Go right ahead, Bill.
Bill Young, 303 9th Avenue, representing Dolores Young, 1702 A Street, senior citizen. Thank you, Business Administrator. Thank you, Chief. Mayor, I just want to thank you and the council and Business Administrator, Michael DuPont and Michael Campbell, Lieutenant, the Captain, doing an outrageous job here in Belmar. I spoke to my mother before I came to the meeting tonight. She's very happy with the progress down at the boardwalk. Very happy with your actions on Precise. Very good contractor, as you pointed out, who did 10th Avenue. We don't think you should change the course. Keep moving ahead. And I grew up poor, and I don't want anybody to know my name when I was back in Mayo when I got relief. So I think you're making the right strategy to keep that quiet, because this is pride and dignity. And this haranguing that we get every council meeting, whether it's once a week or every 2 weeks on the boardwalk, I think people need to keep in context what happened. I mean, a bomb blew off at the beach, and you're rebuilding the boardwalk and the beach. And as you said, change orders happen. And this is the worst storm we've seen in hundreds of years. So the progress you made and the change orders, don't change the course. That's all I got. Thank you.
I have to agree with you. I just wanted to say extraordinary happenings call for extraordinary measures. And I think that's what we were faced with. And I couldn't agree with you more. I'm confounded by the idea of making public the names of the people who received aid. I have great faith in our social services director, Kelly Williams. She knows of people who need help. They are under her umbrella, so to speak. I mentioned once before that I come from a family that valued its privacy growing up. We did not require assistance, public assistance, but I know how my mom and dad felt. Our business was private business. If we needed help, we would have been happy to have it. But what my dad was like was he wouldn't or couldn't do for his own, and that would have been an embarrassment to him. If you can't do for your own, that's an embarrassment. We're happy to help, get the help, but at the same time, why would the world need to know that? We had oversight as to who got that money. It was done in a very proper way. I have no doubt about that. We have very reputable people working for us at the borough. Why wouldn't that be on the up and up? I just can't understand it.
Absolutely.
And Council President, I just point out, that argument was made by me to the mediator, and the mediator fully appreciated that we had a social worker who was actually, carrying that out and doing that. So, it's an interesting argument. It's certainly a privacy issue, as you had said.
If you have the ability to look at the list, look at the list, certainly. That's our right to do so. But at the same time, I have no doubt, I'm not speaking for anyone else, I'm not arguing with Councilman Bean. He has a right to his opinion, but I have a right to mine. I cannot see that. I just can't picture that, knowing how I was raised, my family, the privacy issue. That was our business. Thank you.
As I'm getting a little beat up here, I'd like to at least say my piece. Just the idea that money can come into this town and they can cut a check and hand it out, and nobody can really know who this money went to, unless they did say, I believe halfway through, that I'm allowed to go and just view the list, even though there's hundreds and hundreds of people on there. I need open government. I need open government. Our town should not be a charity. That's not what a municipality is meant for. And just the fact that we agreed to do it is mind-boggling to me. So that's all I'm going to say.
Extraordinary circumstances call for extraordinary measures. That's my opinion.
Excuse me, Claire, I don't think that our town is a charity. I think we still have people, 35 homes, families that are displaced, that were in desperate need of help. I think people are excited to get back to the boardwalk, but please don't lose sight of these people still struggling. So to say that our town is a charity is incorrect.
Well, no, anytime we hand out money that is charity, we are the charity. The money was there. The people would have got this money, whether the municipality did it or a private organization did it. But we chose to do it as a town, and now we're able to cut checks, but nobody can see that the taxpayer, cannot see where these checks are going, even though it's coming in your name.
Well, remember, they're not tax dollars, and to say, hey, if I give $5,000 to the Belmar Relief, I know it's going to Belmar families. If I give $5,000 to the Red Cross, who knows where that goes? You have every right, just like any other member of the council, to view who client number 9 is. It's not Elliot Spitzer. At any time, but you continually object to doing that, and it seems you do it in a way that you can continue saying that we're not transparent, we're not open government, and that we shouldn't be a charity. When I would contend that, what's great about living in this town is that we take care of ourselves, we take care of each other. And that's exactly what we did. I wouldn't have changed one thing from any point along it. The only thing I wish we would have done, I wish we would have raised more money to give out to the families that are on the waiting list today. And I'm actually going to try to do that over the next month or so to help those families as well. And again, you can look at the list of those families, but are we going to make them public and embarrass them? Absolutely not.
And Mayor, I want to point out the mediator had no criticisms for the borough in terms of transparency or openness. The mayor, or the mediator, really concentrated on a balancing test that privacy issues of people who are receiving these donations have against disclosure. And when we, Councilman Bean's correct, when we had offered the opportunity to go in and review with the social worker, the reasons behind were just the dean at times. Look, this is an opportunity, would you care like to do that? And that alternative was turned down. So, the borough was not in any way criticized by the mediator with respect to its openness or its transparency, or with respect to the compromise that was offered with respect to coming and looking at the names together with the social worker.
Ready?
Randy Brazil, 10111. I'm proud to say I'm a new resident in this town. I just moved here in September, right before the storm. So thanks for the big welcome, it was great. I grew up as a product of a school lunch program. My parents had nothing. They were a lower middle class family. I grew up in the projects in Queens. I'm proud to say that I'm able to live here, and I'm proud to say that I was able to donate to this town, to our relief effort, and I'm proud that my money hopefully went to client number 9 or whoever that might be. And if I could have given more, I would have given more. And I wouldn't give it to the Red Cross, because like the mayor said, we give to our own. And you know what? I'm proud to call this town my own now. I'm proud that I was able to come back here when there was no gas in my car, to vote when I couldn't live in my own house. So be proud of yourselves. You've done a great job. I'm real proud of you. Thanks a lot for everything.
Mike Seebeck, 110 Second Avenue. First off, regarding the Precise contract, the consequences of Precise forfeiting, council would be they would forfeit their bid bond, and we would go out to bid again, correct?
Yeah,
We would have the option.
There's a number of consequences.
Number of consequences. And we could have also, in my opinion, and first off, I want to just stop right there and thank Councilman McGovern very sincerely for taking my concerns into consideration, because I think because of Precise's unfortunate mathematical error that was compounded by Birdsall, we had the strong hand to play in dealing with the situation. Probably could have negotiated a better deal for ourselves rather than just roll over and say, oh, we're going to give you $100,000 to dig test pits. The second thing is regarding the transparency, which I've had an issue with for a long time now and still do, because we're now basically embarking on a new set of negotiations with potential developers that could involve any myriad of solutions and proposals as to what's going to happen on the beachfront. I would like to know why the mayor and council would be against having those negotiations videotaped and held entirely in public.
To have negotiations with
Potential vendors, developers,
I don't think anyone would do that,
why not?
because it's negotiation. For
Okay.
instance, next council meeting, we're gonna have people come up and they're gonna give bids for the kitchens that we're gonna, the trailers we're gonna put up on the boardwalk. That makes sense, one person stands there and one person stands there, and they just bid it out. But when you negotiate, like you negotiated the 9th Avenue Pier, you don't do that in public. No, you know anything about.
Well, that's part of the problem. I do know a lot about business. That's part of the problem is we're not a business.
Terrible idea. We operate this place like a business.
No, we do not operate this place like a business. Trust me, we're out of it. We're going to be heading towards being out of business the way we're operating this place as a
When
business.
do we have that?
Well, for instance, the rate we're spending right now, we're going to have substantial tax increases in
When?
very near future.
This year?
Mayor Doherty, everything we're doing here, you are speaking in the paper as if the 75% is written in stone from FEMA. And nobody else, none of the other politicians are acting that way. So my concerns are very grave about how much money we're spending and how we're not negotiating the best terms for the taxpayers on a lot of these issues. And you know precisely what issues I'm talking about. We're talking about giving away $300,000. We spent probably, with the $100,000 tonight included, maybe a couple million more than we probably should have with contractors in haste.
That's totally.
Okay, so what I'd like to know is why this council would be against negotiating with vendors in public.
Well, there's a difference between negotiating with vendors and negotiating with.
Developers, the whole, whoever.
Because, that doesn't make any sense.
Why not? What is said in negotiations that can't be discussed in public?
Because we may end up talking to multiple developers.
More the merrier.
Well, yeah, but when you negotiate, you don't want to know, you don't want one developer to know what the other one's thinking, do you?
Why not?
Okay.
The second thing is, Claire Dyke, Council President Dyke, I apologize. In terms of privacy,
Yes.
wasn't this entire council advised through local government services and told to not accept donations and to avoid as much as possible the commingling of donations and taxpayer funds? Wasn't a notice sent out? So wasn't it the decision of this mayor and council to forego that process
Well, just.
that's compromised the identity
There
and
was
the
no-
privacy of these individuals?
Mr. Seebeck, there's no commingling, so that's an inaccurate statement.
Where's the money? The money doesn't run through the general budget?
It's not commingling,
Well, how is it not?
because we did a dedication by rider, the Councilman Dean voted.
Okay, did you set up a separate trust?
You don't set up a separate trust.
Did you set up a separate fund?
You do a dedication by rider. as-
Was there a
as
separate
DCA
fund set up?
As DCA instructed us to do. And our CFO manages those dollars.
Well, why couldn't a party of people that are not elected officials making handouts be involved in the handout of those funds?
Why would a party of people?
Because Claire Dyke just said, we're in control and we take care of our own.
We do.
And other towns have done this with trusts and other instruments that we did not choose to use.
Correct.
So now we're making payments to Opt Online, Phoenix University, God knows how many credit cards and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Seebeck.
there's no accountability.
There is accountability. Thank you very much.
I
Yes,
sta-
David.
I stand by my position of taking care of our own and doing what's best for our people who are still in distress. I will not change my position on that.
David Schnack, 302 C Street. Couple of quick questions. You started, okay. Do you think Mr. Bean's purpose is to embarrass the recipients of his donations? Do you think that's what his motivation is? That's my question.
I don't know what his motivation is, but I will tell you that it would be embarrassing, and we've received both letters and also phone calls, and people who came in who specifically asked, please, or requested, please do not reveal my name and address.
Well, I would imagine nobody would want that, you know. But the thing is that government is public and charity is private. Public means public. Now, the reason why DCA, in my mind,
But not everything the government does is public. As Ms. Dupont
Well-
explained to you, someone may receive a social security check.
No, that's
It's a government
insurance,
check.
that's not charity. Social Security is insurance, not charity.
Well, or someone may receive welfare.
well, anyway, if I may speak.
But their name
Um,
would be public.
You know, when someone gets a donation and it's handled by, let's say, St. Vincent de Paul, right? There's nothing they can do. They can thank St. Vincent de Paul, but there's no way they can return the favor, right? Like, St. Vincent de Paul does not need the people who receive their charity, right? They need their donors, but they don't depend on the recipients for anything, right? They're obligated to the donors, right?
Who's obligated to the donor?
A charity like St. Vincent de Paul or the Salvation Army or something, they are dependent on their donors, right? When the recipients, they're not dependent on for anything. There's nothing the recipients can do in return, right?
Well, you can write a thank you note.
They can write them a thank you card or something, right?
You could patronize their store in town.
But they can't help keep them in power, can they? They can't vote for them, can they? This is a conflict of interest, and that's why the state didn't want us doing it, because there's an inherent conflict of interest, because they can return the favor, and with a private charity, that's not the case. That's my point. Number two, the boardwalk. There's a possibility that there's going to be liquor licenses on the boardwalk on borough property.
It's a possibility. It's something we're discussing.
You know, I wrote about that on my blog, and you said I was lying.
No. You said on Ocean Avenue, not on the boardwalk.
Well, Ocean Avenue, the boardwalk's on Ocean Avenue, isn't it?
No.
So that's splitting hairs, you know. The point is that we're going to now have bars or liquor licenses on the boardwalk, all times of night, like till midnight,
If you
serving
want to blog
beers.
about that, you can go freely blog about it.
All right, I think I might. Thank you.
Can I I ask you a question, Mr. Schneck?
Sure, Claire.
On your blog, you had some kind of criticism of our spending, and then you had, maybe you can clarify this for me, then you had a list of names. This is a person who should get money, and this is a person who should get money. What was that blog about?
This is
You
a person.
criticized us spending money, and then you said the money should go to people who need help. Do you recall that?
She was talking about the families and taxpayers in town that could have kept that money.
Oh, yes, yes.
Could you explain that to me?
Oh, absolutely, I can. You know, when we go to work, I'd love to explain that. When I go to work, I have to schlep up to Newark, spend 8 hours up there, come back home. I'm sure everybody else works very hard and stuff. You're not doing it so that the town can have this, you know, that we can have Tahoes instead of Impalas, or so we can have, you know, a boardwalk that'll last 200 years instead of 100 years. It's something we're doing it for our own families, you know, and we have a lot of stuff we need. And, you know, probably made a mistake getting me started on this, but, you know, food is going up, taxes are going up, gas is going up, everything's going up. My paycheck's not going up. A lot of people, their paychecks aren't going up. So I'm just saying, you have to think about that, you know. We're not working for the government, we're working for ourselves, and we need some amount of government, but really only as much as we need. We don't need all kinds of fancy stuff, not these days. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I just say that, in my opinion, there's not any charity in town more qualified than our social services department. You can't say St. Rose. I mean, they're more concerned about their high school, their grammar school, their church, the Methodist church. I mean, who better to run this program of giving in donations out than us? I mean, we're paying Kelly. You can't depend on volunteers. I worked for the town of Belmar for many, many years. You can count on volunteers for a short amount of time. But here we are months later, and Kelly's still working on it. And that's the best way to getting it done correctly. And I agree that if I was receiving money, I wouldn't want the people to know. I mean, if they want to say, I received money, let them come forward. But the Calvary Baptist Church, we recognized Reverend Grace Scarl last week for the work that they did. But, you know, they did a great job, but not at the level that our social services department with Kelly Westerfield has done. I mean, she's trained to do it, and if she needs help, she can call on other members in our offices to give her a hand and help her out. The hours of it are just mind-boggling since the storm, how Kelly has spent doing this properly. And I wish she was here so we could recognize her, but I've listened to your arguments, and it just doesn't apply. There's no other volunteer organization in town that can match the job that we can do in our social services department.
And I also want to mention how closely Kelly was tied with our elementary school that had the list of families that were in need. I think that would have been very difficult for another group to do. She's worked extremely close with them ever since day one.
And I just want to say, Mr. Schneck, you asked the question, Mr. Bean, or Councilman Bean, certainly doesn't want to embarrass people, but that would be one of the outcomes. I know that's not his intent, but certainly that would be an outcome of some individuals. So that's my point about privacy.
And I think it's very unfortunate that the families that are going through what they're going have to worry about contacting us, upset that their names might be out. That's the last thing that they should have had to worry about.
Maybe
That
we
was a
should
disgrace.
Maybe we should have thought about this, about embarrassing people before we decided to become a charity. You know, it's after the fact, and now we're worried, oh my goodness, this possibly, I mean, if I don't request the records, what happens if a reporter does? I mean,
I gotta be honest with you, I never thought there'd be a sitting member of the council that would
Worry about it.
worry about it, or that would want to embarrass the residents they're supposed to serve. And in addition, Mr. Schneck mentioned the St. Vincent Paul Society. They actually work very closely with our social services department.
Yes, I do.
You know,
They work hand in hand.
they work hand in hand. They both rely on each other, and I think if you ask them, I think they would tell you that Kelly Westerfield would be, Kelly Williams, would be the right person to do it, and that the borough would be the right place to have this money processed through. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Jim Rice, Wall, New Jersey. I just want to follow up on a question that I asked last week concerning some meetings that have occurred recently discussing a proposal or a building that's supposedly scheduled to begin in the fall over in the marina. Just what is the status of that?
We're still working with, we're working through some DEP regulations regarding the marina and working with the developer. We hope to have the developer make a presentation within the next 2 council meetings as far as what their design and operations would look like.
So a developer has been selected already for this particular project?
We are in negotiations.
Yeah, we're in negotiations with them.
And the design that's currently slated, proposed, my understanding is significantly different than the initial RFP that went out?
Well, the initial one was much, much larger than what the current potential developer. It's Chess International, they're the ones who operate the 9th Avenue Pier now.
Right, that was awarded without any RFP, that particular project.
That was awarded without an RFP, correct, because it was done in the redevelopment area.
But initially, the proposal that you got from Hibernian, whoever they came in here, they did a nice dog and pony show. Really, at the end of the day, they didn't have the money to do it. That particular project that the RFP was out for, and only that, they're the only ones that came back. Significant change from that requested design versus what's being proposed now?
Well, the proposed design, not a requested design, proposed design is smaller.
Today, single story versus 2-story?
Yeah.
Pushed up to the water versus back from the water?
No.
Not pushed up?
No.
Okay, so still it's going to stay back where it is
Same
currently?
footprint.
Okay, but single story, different footprint. Why would
Same
you?
footprint, same footprint.
How is it significantly smaller? Just simply, so it was, what was it?
Square footage.
Square footage now, it's what?
I don't know.
Roughly 11,000?
I don't know. I can't guess.
So, okay, so how far along is this in terms of design?
Yeah, I mean, again, hopefully they'll have,
Well, in 2 weeks of proposal?
hopefully about 2, if not 4 weeks for them to come before the council.
Okay, and no idea of rough square footage?
Not off the top of my head, no. If you want to email me, I can get it to you.
Sure, okay, it'd be interesting. But there's no plan by the council and mayor to put that out for an RFP, considering the nature of that?
First I'm hearing of it.
No, we've been talking about this for
About the building?
months. No, when we awarded them as the developer, the intention had always been that they would build the pier in time for this past summer, 2012, and we would negotiate with them on the potential for building a building in time for, summer really 2014.
Certainly, lots changed since then, and, I mean, if
What's changed?
well, hurricane is one example, there's other issues at hand.
Oh, well, that's not the latest, but as far as our intention of putting a building there, that hasn't changed.
I know that the intention to put a building there, but obviously it was put out for a proposal, inclusive of the pier as well as the building. The bids that came in, well, most people didn't bid because it didn't make sense financially. The one that did bid, obviously they couldn't make it work. A award was given for the 9th Avenue, which has worked out nicely, but to then back that into this whole building, again, I'm just questioning the reason or rationale why that wouldn't go out to bid.
Because it makes sense to try to negotiate with the person who's already got a business there, who built the miniature golf course, who built the 9th Avenue Pier. It makes most sense to have that same person operate the main building as well. It's always been designed like that, it's always been intended like that, not to have 2 different operators, 2 different developers. That wouldn't make a whole lot of sense.
Wouldn't it be in the best interest of the community to have that fairly bidded at? I mean, they certainly wouldn't be precluded from requesting.
Well,
you
the
know,
problem with bidding is you have to take whatever the highest bidder is, no matter what kind of operator.
Well, RFP though, I said, it's not the highest
Oh,
bid.
that's true.
So,
But right now, if negotiations fail, then I think you have a point, sure. But
And what would-
this
what
is
would-
a good operator who we think is a good fit for the marina.
and what would indicate a failed negotiation?
If you can't come to an agreement.
And then as far as, you know, with this proposal or wherever it is in these current negotiations, what consideration is being given to the parking situation?
We're increasing parking. Thank you. Thank you, Finance.
Just like that, all right? Interesting. Appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to Belmar.
Hi, Janice Kim, Blackburn, 106 River Court. It was my pleasure to be a volunteer on Saturday morning down at the beach for the Easter hunt, Easter egg hunt, and it was thrilling because the beach looked fantastic. It was so beautiful, and the boardwalk really looks nice, what's finished. I was so pleased to see that the ramps up to the boardwalk, both from the street and down from the sand, are at a much lower angle. I think this will be excellent for anybody pushing a baby carriage, anybody in a wheelchair, anybody getting their bikes up there as we all get a little bit older. So whoever came up with that idea, absolutely fantastic. And it is gorgeous. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice.
And Dave can have the rest of my 5.
Oh, thank you.
You already took
We'll
it.
chat after the meeting.
Yes, Vicki.
I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but after she mentioned all that stuff, I just want to clarify, she said something about the survey that I mentioned. So what is the procedure? I just want clarification. Do I just go down to Borough Hall, show the survey, show that her fence is on our property, and then the borough would notify her?
If you'd like to talk to Colleen tomorrow about it and talk to our housing department. Yeah.
Okay. And just to clarify what she mentioned, that you didn't see all the roots and stuff, what she saw was many truckloads of roots and debris that went away that was left there over all the years from all the little trees that took, it was all weeds, it was all junk, and they cleared it out. So that's what was in the truck, it wasn't on the other one.
Thank you, Vicki. Yes, Dave. Mike Seebeck, round 3, 4?
3.
3.
I'd like to thank Mike Seebeck, 110 Second Avenue. I'd like to thank the gentleman from Wall for bringing us up to date on the marina situation. And I'd like to know if the rest of the council concurs with Mayor Doherty that going out for a bid on a lot of these items is not in the best interest of the town. Because I've heard Mayor Doherty express his opinion, and I can appreciate that, and he has his reasons for doing so. I'd like to know what the rest of the council feels about going out for RFPs, discussing things more openly, having presentations that are noticed and town-wide rather than just certain areas.
If I could go first,
Certainly.
we did agree, I think it was the best idea, best interest of the town to have whoever was running the miniature golf pier and to also include the larger building.
Who's we?
I know personally I was a bit disappointed when we were unable to find somebody that would agree to take on all 3, which is when we did separate them. And I think that the group with the pier and miniature golf, they're doing a tremendous job. I'm very glad that they're in negotiations with us, the larger building. So I agree with the path that we're on.
So you're against going out to bid?
I agree with the path we're on.
Okay.
I remember last year we had an RFP out, and a gentleman came here from the Hibernian Group.
Yeah, that was 2000 and...
And that was an RFP. He put on a show for the audience. I believed them. I think everybody believed them. And it was just nothing. Then we got a gentleman to come in, Mr., what's his name? Bob Cooper, and he did a great job at the 9th Avenue Pier last year. To me, he's proved himself. He is the president of Chefs International, which has several restaurants, so he's experienced in it. So we're not gonna get someone to come in there and do a business that's gonna flop. He's got the background in the restaurant business. He proved to me last year that he can run a good operation. So I'm gonna support him the way we're going. Yeah.
Council President Dyke, do you have a thought on the matter?
Well, I think when we do need to go out for RFPs, we do. I think history would tell you that. In this situation, since we already have a restaurateur in place, who seems to have developed a very good procedure with running that open air pier restaurant, that it would make sense to me that that particular company would be involved in the regular restaurant there, because, you know, they could support each other, you know, it makes sense in terms of the pier restaurants to be dependent upon the major restaurants by the same owners. And I think when Mayor Pringle was involved, we discussed that, because a lot of this planning began when he was mayor. And we went through a lot of legalese, and we went through a lot of architectural design. And he also felt, and I don't think I was quoting him, that it would be, and it was an option that he had explored, that it would be beneficial for the smaller restaurant and the larger restaurant to be run by the same company. In other situations, we had an RFP once when we started this. I can't recall if Mayor Pringle was mayor, but we did have restaurateurs come in from Long Branch and a number of different places. And we listened to them. They had very, very good questions. So we did go through that process at one time when this was in its infancy. But I agree with both mayors, and I believe that Mayor Pringle believed that as well, that the one restaurant, if we're going to have two restaurants there, they should be run by the same company. And I think that's just good business sense. That's my opinion.
Fair enough. Would you say that this thought process is going to extend to the boardwalk redevelopment also?
We can't really say that. I don't think we can say that at this point. I think we have a lot more options there. I think it probably will be open-ended until we determine, you know, how we'll proceed. But for the marina, I think that's a good fit. I think that Chefs International is a proven winner in every sense of the word. Top-notch operation. Why would we go with anyone else? And it just makes sense for the two restaurants to be under the same business umbrella. That's my opinion.
And I can assure you that we will do an RFP for the boardwalk.
Okay, the one last question I have regarding the kitchen trailers.
That's 5 minutes, Mike.
Are the kitchen trailer leases going to cover the expenses?
5 minutes. Yes.
They will. So the leases are going to be in excess of the amount we're spending to...
Oh, I'm sorry. What we're bidding, the minimum bid would cover it. Will the leases from the existing operators cover it?
Well, I would imagine they'd have to kind of enter into new contracts, no?
I'll tell you that for the existing businesses that did not terminate their lease, they may or may not cover the cost.
We had to terminate the leases. There's no property to lease. So legally, don't we have to terminate the leases?
No.
I thought that was state law, that if you have a lease and the property is destroyed, it basically abrogates the lease.
We made a business decision to keep the businesses up there running through the summer, the ones who want to stay, because they've been very loyal to us, we want to be loyal to them. But that's not happening. Sorry, round three, long round. All right.
Good evening, Tom Rogers, 1603 Ocean Avenue. Just a clarification on the lease for the bidding for next...
April 17th.
Okay, is it $83.50 for the season or a month you're asking?
Month.
Okay, that answered that, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to tell Ricky that that fence has been there.
Wait, but let's, this probably isn't the best venue for a, property dispute.
Oh, what it is, just come back and say about the property. So
Well,
why
what
not
she
me?
wants to do is she's gonna contact Colleen about getting a survey. But you can contact Colleen as well.
No, I don't have to, because that was 75 years that fence there. And just from Harris Aronis and me, 75 years, so I don't know what they're talking about.
Yes, Gene?
Gene Kramer, 4th Avenue. The cottonwood trees are very interesting. Actually, I'm a proponent of using New Jersey concrete barrier for the boardwalk skirt. And I sent you a way that the concrete barrier could be installed. And since then, I've come up with a list of benefits that I've identified, and I'd like to pass them to you.
Yes, sir.
And this won't take 5 minutes. Okay, a couple of benefits that I've identified. One of them, number one, Trex deck saw cut sharps protection. With the New Jersey concrete barrier, the cut edge on the Trex would be concealed. And that's actually what the manufacturer recommends. I had contacted them. Benefit number two, under the boardwalk, we spoke a little bit about that at the last meeting, but what that would do would control access underneath the boardwalk on the roadway side. And I think that's you don't want children that are getting out of cars to start going away from mom and dad, crawling underneath the boardwalk. Plus, you might even have people, instead of going through having their badges checked, getting onto the beach, you just get out of the car and crawl underneath the boardwalk, and then we would have to identify them some other way. Number three, boardwalk motor vehicle damage protection. I don't recall with the old boardwalk whether there were any car bumpers or anything, but certainly, you know, we have a $8 million plus investment there, and the New Jersey concrete barrier would provide some protection from that, plus whatever insurance policy automobile or truck drives into the barrier to get some protection. Number four, up to 32 inches additional ocean flood fortification protection. I know there's been some talk about other alternatives to protect the west side of Ocean Avenue, and quite truthfully all of Belmar. With the New Jersey barrier and it being done, engineered installation, we would be able to get at least an additional 32 inches of flood protection on the west side of Ocean Avenue. And that might even, you know, keep, I measured that 32 inches. And by the way, the barriers are still around A Street. It would be about so high. It's not impossible to climb. In fact, the other day on A Street, at one of the barriers that had been painted by the Arts Council, there were kids climbing all over it. They were having a good time. Well, in any case, we would get up to an additional 32 inches of additional flood protection by having an installed barrier alongside the boardwalk. Number five, no coastal area facility review act review required. In comparison to any of the other revetment proposals of building east of the boardwalk. Anything except dunes would require a CAFR permit. A CAFR permit takes a minimum of 180 calendar days in order to get approval.
Sometimes long.
Most times longer. When I quoted 180 days, that's really when the skids are greased. But there would be much opposition to this, not just from the Sierra Club, but also from the educational community. So there would be 180 days improvement on anything other than dunes east that may be proposed east of the boardwalk. Number 6, water and windswept sand and litter control. The New Jersey barrier would keep sand and litter from blowing on from the beach onto the roadway.
Sorry, Keem. That's time.
You gotta be kidding me. I have a better clock.
iPhone doesn't lie.
I have a better clock to you.
But, and again, you send us an email to us, so I hope all the council does look at it. We're gonna give it to our engineers and see what they think.
Can I mention just...
Permission from the county since it's their road?
Yeah, we don't get permission from the county too.
Okay. One thing, let me just mention one thing. It would create a 1.3 mile standard canvas for Belmar arts or revenue.
That's why you really want it. You just want a good place.
Keep everybody busy.
I love you, Eugene.
All right. Well, that's just about our time, everybody. So I'll make a motion to close the public portion and adjourn.
I will second it.